And they'll join our friends at the Forge. All right, give these guys a hand.
Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. First and foremost, my name is LaShawn Ajamu. I'm married to Kwame Ajamu, and I would like to read you an open letter that I had submitted in the Toledo Blade. In 1997, my brother James Nero was brutally murdered and gunned down in a road rage incident in Canton, Ohio after a minor incident. James insisted that the other driver provide his insurance information. Instead, the driver returned from his car with a gun and shot my brother in the face. He then shot James again point-blank range as he lay on the pavement. James was just 20 years old and a proud father of an 18-month-old son. He was engaged to be married to his son's mother. And like every 20-year-old, he had many plans and dreams. I thank God that I saw James on the last day of his life.
Take your time.
He hugged me and he told me that he loved me. At least I have that to remember him by. When the court case about the murder was over, James was still dead. My family had never experienced the intense trauma of losing a loved one to murder, and we had no idea how to deal with the pain. No state or city agency ever provided our family with any information about resources available to help us deal with the situation. We had only ourselves and our church community. We were on our own as far as the state of Ohio was concerned. This is why when state officials and others say we have executions so that victims' families can have justice or finality or closure, I say that's just political grandstanding. Most cases in which the death penalty could be imposed do not end in a death sentence or execution. There have been thousands of murders in Ohio since our capital punishment law was enacted in 1981, but only 53 executions. How can it be true that executions are for victims' families when we use them so infrequently? What do politicians say to the vast majority of us for whom the so-called justice of an execution is even possible? The silence is deafening. In any case, I know that an execution wouldn't have helped my family heal. Among other issues, Ohio does a disservice to families when the killer is sentenced to death, because the family has to put its healing process on hold for decades through the capital punishment appeals process. We have 27 prisoners currently scheduled for execution. 8 of them will have been on death row longer than 30 years by the time of their scheduled execution. 12 would have been there longer than 20 years. All of those years, the family is holding its breath and suffering through court date after court date, newspaper article after newspaper article. Without a death sentence in our case, we began our healing process as soon as the trial was over. If there had been a death sentence, we probably would still be waiting. The man who killed my brother's name is Terry Freeman. He put 2 bullets in my brother's head, but killing Terry Freeman won't bring my brother back. We don't want the state using our pain to justify another family losing a loved one, even if he is guilty. There's no such thing as closure, because there will always be that empty seat at the table when family members of murder victims gather. With Ohio to embark on executions again, after 3.5 years without them, I will no longer sit by quietly while elected officials tell us that we must execute so that murder victims' families can have closure in their case. We must reject the myth that executions always help victims' families. Instead of wasting resources to execute a handful of killers, Ohio can do better by all victims' families. My family could have used counseling and other kinds of support instead, which I believe would have helped our recovery and grief. Ohio does provide some support to victims' families, but it varies greatly among Ohio's 88 counties. Fix that. Trained, certified, qualified mental health professionals must be available to any family experiencing homicide. They should be available to all without disparity. of access based on race, economics, geographic, or prior unrelated encounters with law enforcement. Fix that too. Y'all got the power to do that.
Let's do it.
Governor John Kasich has an opportunity, well now, I must say, the new governor has an opportunity to be merciful here. To all families affected by homicide in Ohio, stop wasting resources on executions and do better for all murder victims' families. I thank you all so much.